what the member is basically speaking to is that let us establish the minimum cost of living, what otherwise would be described as living a decent lifestyle. Madam Speaker, Zamstat, if it is established for the purpose of doing a responsibility as this member is basically saying, can we now establish what ourselves as a country we can call that minimum benchmark? Why it is important to establish as a country, Madam Speaker, is because poverty will be described by different spheres or different jurisdictions differently. What otherwise people in Europe would call poverty may not be poverty in Zambia. We use these words loosely, Madam Speaker. I will give you an example. Today, people describe us as a country as a very poor country. The question would be, what is the benchmark for being described as poor, when in fact you are a very rich country, endowed with so many resources, and I'm talking about mineral endowments, resources such as land, water, and others. But because we have allowed people to be using these words very loosely, people call us a poor country, and we're very excited. People make descriptions of how many people are poor in Zambia. Today, the statistics will tell you 60% of Zambian people are living in abject poverty. The question is, what is that benchmark you are using to describe ourselves as living in abject poverty? The World Bank, Madam Speaker, has put a standard. They refer to it as C$1.90. For all those that are living beyond that datum line, they are said to be living in extreme poverty. Now, why it is important to establish the poverty datum line? I cannot overemphasize what has already been said. I would otherwise been going through what they've already said. It helps a government to direct resources to the right people. Today, Madam Speaker, the biggest problem we have in Zambia is not that Zambia is a poor country, Madam Speaker. I argue that a lot. The problem we have in Zambia is that we are unable to share wealth equitably. There are people today in Zambia who have so much wealth that if a little of that wealth they have was to be equitably shared, nobody would live or be described to be poor. So what Honorable Fube is saying, let us establish at what point would be able to say this one is poor. So that even when you design these interventions, the social caste transfer, security pact, and all these interventions that have been employed today to address the issue of drought, which has been now named as a national disaster, we will then be able to place resources to the people that matters. I'll give you an example, Madam Speaker, why it is important to establish this datum line, so that we can apply these things fairly. If we look at two regions today, I come from Luapula, where my people are fishermen. And because of that region receiving sufficient rains, we are going to perhaps make a mistake to think that because there is enough rain there and they did some farming, they don't deserve the support being given to other people in a response to disaster. You then go to areas where waste hit by drought, and I want to give in context Southern Province, which was waste hit. You then say, let us help or support our people in Southern because they were waste hit by drought. Forgetting, Madam Speaker, that our friends in the South have got animals. If we look at the value of the animals they have, they are way beyond the description of poverty. So the poverty data line simply helps you to put these things in context where you are able to know which people qualify to actually be called poor people. Madam Speaker, there's no controversy. There's no controversy, which is why I want to emphasize my people perish because of lack of knowledge. Our friends need a lot of education in such sensitive issues as this. This does not need for us to even be debating. What Honorable Fube is simply saying, let us establish the base at which we can then qualify whether somebody requires help he is poor or not. Always be politicking. This is a non-controversial issue. He's only asking us, let us establish our own benchmark for describing who is poor, who is average, who is living in extreme poverty. That is what this motion is speaking to. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Acting Minister of Finance to respond.
Madam Speaker, let me thank you for giving me this opportunity to wind up debate on a motion raised by the Honorable Fube urging government to establish a poverty datum line in order to ascertain the standard of living in the country. Let me also thank the other members of the House on their views on the matter. Madam Speaker, allow me to explain that a poverty datum line is, allow me to explain what a poverty datum line is before I can give a response. A poverty datum line is a technique used to describe and derive the theoretical minimum cost of living. It estimates the lowest possible cost of living, of maintaining a household's theoretical needs to lead a decent and healthy life in that short run. Madam Speaker, the poverty datum line is regarded as the best available method of assessing the socio-economic status and level of a household. However, the poverty datum line is a concept mainly used by the World Bank Group of poverty experts for purposes of international poverty comparisons. Madam Speaker, the determination of a poverty datum line should include food and non-food items. The food items should be anchored on a nutritionally balanced food basket. Non-food items should include essential items such as housing, clothing, sanitation and hygiene materials, fuel and lighting. The poverty datum line should consider varying needs of persons of different ages and sex in a typical household. Madam Speaker, allow me to confirm that government has already put in place mechanisms through which statistics, including poverty statistics, are compiled, as has been indicated. In this regard, the Zambia Statistics Agency, which falls under the Ministry of Finance and National Planning, has been carrying out comparative poverty assessments since 1991, with the latest 8th Living Conditions and Monitoring Survey conducted in 2022. The main objective of the Living Conditions Monitoring Survey is to measure the well-being of the Zambian population and to provide trends in the different measures of societal well-being over time. It is these surveys that provide for the poverty datum line or the absolute poverty line, which helps to ascertain the standard of living in the country. Madam Speaker, the House may wish to note that in our assessment of poverty, we have always considered identification of an absolute poverty line. This line typically specifies the amount of money that is required to meet a minimum standard of living, which involves the use of the cost of a basic food basket as a starting point. This is supplemented by an allowance for the cost of non-food items represented by the basic needs basket. It is assumed that poverty exists when citizens or when individuals or households fall below this line. Madam Speaker, in the 2022 Living Conditions and Monitoring Survey, the absolute poverty line was valued at 517 kwacha, compared to 214 kwacha recorded in the 2015 Living Conditions and Monitoring Survey. Madam Speaker, government has taken interest in the current poverty statistics. These are informed on strategic interventions that are being implemented to alleviate poverty among our people. For example, government has prioritized spending as social protection interventions to alleviate vulnerability, such as the social cash transfer, school feeding program, and the food security pack. As part of the drought response, other innovative models such as the Cash for Work program are being implemented as short-term measures to empower the vulnerable with cash to buy food items, as well as stimulate economic activity at community level. Last but not the least, Madam Speaker, government has expanded support to the Constituency Development Fund to promote development in every district of Zambia. Madam Speaker, government remains committed, members be assured, remains committed to putting in place policies, programs, and structures to improve the standard of living of the people of Zambia. Madam Speaker, having said this, I wish to state that the government does not support the motion, as there is already a mechanism by which it ascertains the levels of poverty in our country. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Chilubi, winding up debate.
Madam Speaker, I would like first to indicate that I'm the saddest person as I stand. Why I'm sad is that my expectation and the people of Chilubi's expectations were that this is a motion that will be welcomed with two hands, especially from government that claims to be methodical. Madam Speaker, when we talk about the issues to do with poverty, especially poverty datum line, it's a reality that Zambia does not have a national poverty datum line. This is a reality that even Zamstats acknowledges that this is a gap in their collection of statistics. In many documents of government, Zamstats acknowledges that reality. I do not understand government's position on Zamstats, because I can bring a heap of documents where Zamstats has acknowledged that lack of poverty datum line is hampering correction of data in the periodical living conditions survey. That's what Zamstats has acknowledged. The standing of government, especially the executive, I would like to call it political grandstanding, because my motion was away from political emotions, and my motion was meant to take the interests of Zambians first. Madam Speaker, the minister did refer to the 517 kwacha, which is based on the family of 6, broken down as 336.73 for food poverty and 180.87 for non-food poverty. Madam Speaker, even with reference of CDF, reference of many more, government programs that the acting minister of finance mentioned, amiss, Madam Speaker, that we are shooting in the dark as a people. If we continue on the route, I did expect that this is a motion that would be appreciated. But I think because of political polarization that is in this country, we are at this station, which is very sad And I think when we look at this, it should not be from where the motion is coming from. It should be from the Zambians. As for me and the people from Chirubi, just like Jesus Christ said, that of all you gave me, I lost none. I am saying that from the performance of Article 63, I have performed my duty. And Article 63 specifically, I have performed my duty. And for those that see politics in what I've said, one day they will remember this day. I have done my part. I have done my part. It is my part to do according to the prescription. Very soon we'll be going for the budget debate. I don't know what we'll be doing, especially that we have also limitations on what to vary as Parliament. But Article 63 states, and I have performed the duty, I'll go and sleep peacefully. For those that think that I was politicking, it's up to them. I have taken stake to the Zambian people. I have stood for the Zambian people. And I came brought before this Parliament to define a poverty, national poverty datum line. National means Zambia. Poverty datum line means anything that relates to Zambia. I have done my part. For all what you gave me, I have not lost none. I thank you.
The poverty datum line. And so some members of Parliament are for this motion, others are against. And so a division has been called, meaning members of Parliament will have to vote either for or against this particular motion. And so as soon as everything is ready, members of Parliament will get to vote and will get to know whether this motion will be adopted or not. On the motion that has been moved by Chirubi Member of Parliament, Mr. Paul. And some of the MPs that have added their voice to this particular motion include Labour and the Social Security Minister, Ms. Brenda Tabatamba. We also had Kampusa Member of Parliament, Nkana Member of Parliament, rather. Also added his voice to this particular. We expect to know whether this motion is going to be adopted or not. So the motion is titled, Establish a Poverty Datum Line. That in order to ascertain the standard of living in the country, the House urges the government to establish a poverty datum line. So members of Parliament will be voting electronically in a short while from now. So we urge you to stay tuned right here as we await for the voting process to begin. Do stay tuned.
to talk across the aisle. Let's maintain order in the House. Thank you, honorable members. Close the bar, clear the lobbies, and lock the doors. For purposes of clarity, the question we are voting on is that in order to ascertain the standards of living in the country, this House urges the government to establish a poverty datum line. Those who are in support of this motion will vote yes. Those who are against the motion will vote no. The House will vote electronically only using the Bosch multimedia units. Please log in to the system. Have we all successfully logged in? When you hear the paging sound, the vote has opened and the voting screen is displayed on your microphone unit. Select the present key. Have you selected the present key? On top of the right side of the screen, you will see the words, please cast your vote. Select one of the options, yes, no, or abstain. Once you have selected one of the options, you will see the words, vote has been cast on the right side of the screen. When you hear the second paging sound, the vote will close after 1 minute. You have just voted. The results are as follows. Okay, yes. Yes, 30. Noes, 64. Abstain, 0. The noes have it. The question is negatived. Thank you. So as the time is now 16:45, we will go for a break, a health break for 20 minutes. The House resumes at 17:05. Thank you. Order.
Madam Speaker, I'm grateful to be given an opportunity to contribute to the speech of His Excellency Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, President of the Republic of Zambia, delivered during the official opening of the fourth session of the 13th National Assembly on Friday, 13th September 2024. Madam Speaker, the address by the President was a message of hope for a country faced with a severe drought, which has been declared a national disaster and has decimated most sectors of our economy. The address outlined measures to accelerate economic recovery, protect national resources, uphold the rule of law, improve health services delivery, and reduce poverty. These interventions are a result of the creation of an enabling environment for investment in the key sectors of the economy and commitment to fight corruption. It is a mark of exceptional leadership to steadily steer a country faced with a national disaster and emergency caused by drought. Madam Speaker, the speech by the President demonstrated the new Dawn administration's unwavering commitment to the restoration of law and order in the country and the relentless fight to uncover and rid our country of corruption, including recovery the country's stolen assets. The new Dawn UPND administration has successfully managed to bring back law and order in all parts of the country, especially in public places. Restoration of law and order still ranks top on our agenda, as there cannot be meaningful socio-economic development without peace in the country. Madam Speaker, at this juncture, I want to state that the country will not allow lawlessness and disorder. Anyone, despite the station in this country, will not be allowed to break the law with impunity. There is no one who has immunity apart from the President. If anyone breaks the law, Madam Speaker, the law will follow them and they'll be held accountable. Madam Speaker, the new Dawn administration abhors violence because it deprives citizens of their rights and freedoms and demeans their human dignity. Public places were associated with human rights abuse of all forms. We took bold decisions to restore order in the country, and we will remain committed to upholding human rights. Madam Speaker, the new Dawn administration has made anti-corruption policies a priority since coming into office. Every day, we are fighting corruption with greater vigor. Corruption has damaged public confidence in political and public institutions, as well as the nation's ability to have health and competitive markets. It has harmed the public budgets, which are already constrained. Corruption is a major barrier to social and economic advancement, as well as the 2030 deadline for eradicating extreme poverty. With no doubt, we are committed to fighting corruption and getting back the national assets that have been taken, regardless of when or who perpetrated the sketch. Madam Speaker, more than ever before, it is imperative that this government takes the lead in ridding this nation of this cancer. I'll call upon civil society, the private sector, government in totality, and the other partners to join hands on this noble crusade. We know that successful anti-corruption efforts must feature a broad coalition of leadership, both inside and out of government, working together. This struggle has no room for retreat. In the years to come, we will make sure that increased transparency serves as the primary catalyst for both preventing and exposing corruption. Madam Speaker, law enforcement agents' arrests should not be interpreted as an infringement on someone's rights, or an attempt to grade a specific person, nor should selective application of the law to silence people, as some with malicious vested interests have claimed. In an attempt to divert the government from its well-intended initiatives, the arrests are a culmination of thorough professional investigations undertaken by our investigating wings. They are a step